Thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name is Stefan Kunz. I am doing these live streams to get you guys to draw with me. My goal is to have a creative session together and to use our time during the quarantine, during the lockdown, and to make the best use of our times. Today, I got a special guest. You have seen it already on the title of this video. It's Barnard, my good friend Ian. Let's see if we can see Ian over here. And that is the wrong view. Ian, welcome to the live stream.
Hey, good to be here. Good to be here. Thanks for bringing me on your channel.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. I'm excited for this one because it's actually drawing letters, the full alphabet. It's something exciting, something very daunting for a lot of us. We all have some letters that we cannot draw really well or that we just have some struggles with. And we're gonna tackle this today. We're gonna also learn all about the little secrets about every single letter. And I want to encourage all of you guys to take a piece of paper. You can click pause on the video. You can come back and bring a piece of paper, also a pencil or a pen or whatever you like to draw with. It's gonna be a relaxing time. I got some relaxing music in the background and it's gonna be really fun. So, Ian, before we start, we have known each other for, I don't know, 3 years. 2 years ago, the first time we met was in Düsseldorf at the airport. It's funny because we met in Germany, actually.
Yes, we did, didn't we? Because we were stopover before we went to Iceland. And it's weird because when you meet someone you only known over the internet, you're much taller in real life than I thought you were going to be. I thought you were tall, but we met in a coffee shop, didn't we? We were getting some breakfast, and it was so weird because I'd known you for quite a few years before we'd actually met in person. I think it was like 2 or 3 years before that.
Yeah.
It was great to actually meet some of my internet friends.
Yeah, and we didn't only meet each other. We had Will join the party too. Will Patterson, who is also a great YouTuber who does a lot of graphic design, and we joined together on a big mission on towards Iceland, a really fun island, and it was really crazy. I see a lot of people joining in the chat right now. I see a lot of familiar faces from Brazil, Perth to Muscat, Oman, Russia, Germany, the United Kingdom, as well as Indonesia. I'm in Zurich. You are in the UK, in south of the UK, right?
That's right, yeah, about an hour outside London. So I'm just in a little village. Well, at the moment, doesn't matter where you are, we're all locked in our houses. So hopefully we can bring you some
good time,
teaching and entertainment.
And so it's also our very first time that we're trying to do the live stream with a guest through Skype. I had to figure out how that works. It's not my specialty to work out like how programs work and everything like that, but we figured it out. At least I feel like it's working. And so, yeah, you know what? I think it's time to get started. So let's jump over to the overview video. And I need to refresh that in this time. So let's see, refresh. Reconnect to device, here we go.
Do let us know if there's any problems with the audio or the video, because we want everyone to get as much as you can out of this session that we're going to do.
So we're both going to be using our iPads to draw, but basically imagine that this is really your canvas, or like with or without the letter builder, it's going to be possible to follow along. We're going to take you along this journey of drawing letters, and we're going to probably be drawing different type of letters. But let's get started. First letter A.
Yeah.
How do you go about it?
So I normally start by drawing the sort of outside. So there's two things with the letter A. The first one, we get started. The first one is the fact that the area down the bottom here, the width of it, slightly narrows. It goes from that sort of width and it slightly narrows as you get to the top. So if I draw the bit across the top, you'll see it finishes here rather than finishing over on this part over here. And the reason why that is, if we draw the rest of it, the reason why we do that is because of all this weight. I'll just fill it in. Leaking out. Still leaking out. Must plug my gaps. The reason why we do that, here we go. The reason why we do that is because of all this space here. It just overwhelms it with weight, because you've got both of these things overlapping. So you narrow it slightly. This one, if you continue it up, comes to about there. So that just helps the weight not to too top heavy in the top there. See, Stefan's done a very similar thing. Do you want to talk about the crossbar?
So the crossbar, usually I would go about and actually take the weight of the letter builder here, make it pretty much the same, but what you'll notice automatically is that this here looks super heavy. So everything about drawing letters is kind of figuring out optical adjustments and kind of like illusions. Kind of what I showed that just before on the Instagram Live for the L. When you draw an L and you have like a thick line over here, like kind of like a brush lettering where you take the weight and you press harder down and you have this thick, strong contrast towards this other line. But then you would kind of go in here, and so depending on that, usually you would go try to connect these two lines, but in reality, they would kind of like be offset just by a little bit to make the optical adjustment really well. So in this case here, I would actually go around and cut that here, place this low. Like I usually, my personal preference is to add the crossbar as low as possible. And usually crossbars as well are just a little bit lighter than the actual sides, the actual two other lines. So here we have... Go for it.
Sorry, I was just saying there's like a rule of thumb. You know, obviously it's about optical, it's about what you see, but usually the horizontal widths are wider. The ones that are going, I mean, the vertical up and down are much wider than when you're doing something that's horizontal. So just bear that in mind. So it's just the way your eye sees things. It just helps balance the whole letter out, but we'll see that in a minute.
So even with these lines that I have here, so imagine when we're not using the letter builder. So the reason why we're using the letter builder in the background is so you kind of see the structure of the letter. On Tuesday on my last live stream where we did like 3D letters, I said like most letters have a format of 5x3 in which it's kind of like configured. And so that level helps you to kind of visualize where you have to put the lines. Like for example, in A, again, if you put in these lines, you'd probably try not to connect straight away and then a little bit go further back here to then start to reconnect these lines and then put them all together here, fill these out. So in this case, that's how you would probably do it without using the letter builder. But the letter builder here that we've created has basically the structure of those 3x5, has these lines that will help you guide your letters, so you just know exactly, or a lot easier, where to place them. As you can see here, we have these lines for the A that you can just trace and follow, and that will help you to draw a straight line. But of course, if you want to modify that as well, you, instead of just drawing this line here, you can just actually draw that line, the same line, and stay perpendicular or parallel to that other line, and then redraw that. That line should help you guide your other stroke really well in order to create a style of letters that you want to do, and you can be flexible. You can say like, I want to round off my endings, and those are kind of like the ingredients that you add to your letters. That's what I always teach in my workshops. It's all about the ingredients that you add to your letters, how you can make them different. So here, I'm just adding a little bit of roundness to it to make that a lot of, like, stylize it in a different way. And then I can still add the crossbar, use the same weight as the left side, like this low contrast line. The thinner line is a good guide for my crossbar line that I would use. The same would probably apply to your letter, Ian, as well. When you're drawing the crossbar for your A right now, like you have a super high contrast serif letter, what weight would be that crossbar?
So I would go, because it's horizontal, with the serif alphabet, it's normally just a similar sort of weight to the thinnest side. Because if you put it really thick, it just makes the letter too, so this area over on the right here just over dominates this thin bit here. So going back to having just a thin one, these two elements balance against this, you know, big solid dark area over here. The same what you've done up there. So you think about it, the upstroke, so normally this would be an upstroke if you were in traditional, how they would traditionally write these, and this would be a heavy downstroke. And so when you do a cross stroke, that's normally as well thin as well. There are exceptions to those rules in some of the letters, but majority of the letters, upstrokes would be thin, downstrokes would be fat, and the ones going horizontally would be thin as well. Yeah, we'll show you. There's a good example when we come to the E that in the serif letter will show you that example. But what's quite good is that is with the crossbar, you know, you can adjust it to wherever you want, really. You know, because if you come really low down, it gives it a much different look. You know, a bit more of a sort of Art Deco look. Whereas if you go much higher, it gives it just a completely different look. But you need to keep that consistency through all your letters if you're going to change where the crossbar goes. So traditionally it just goes through the middle, but then, you know, it's up to you. Or you can just start to create interesting looking crossbars, just to give it a little bit more personality to your letters. So, or you could just use some shapes. You know, you could just have a triangle in there if you wanted to. That gives it something else. Or a circle, or some circles. You know, it's just about, because the thing is, it's just about getting the basics down. Once you get the basics, then you can go to town with sort of dressing it up a bit. So
that's awesome.
So, you know, you've got so many styles just in that 1A, just by either transferring the weight or changing the crossbar. So should we move on? Otherwise you're going to be here forever, just on this one letter.
Already somebody has been asking about the letter R, but we're only at A right now, so let's move on to B. B is a fun letter. It really starts off, I usually start off with the thick parts, or that long downward stroke, and then we'll add those two round parts, and then in here you have made that optical adjustment really well in the letter builder, is that the lower part of the B goes a little bit outside, like it's a little bit further away. So if we would take like a downstroke here, you see that this lower part of the B goes in actually a little bit further out. And then the other part that is very interesting too is that when you connect these lines here, they will start to overlap here in the middle. And when you're drawing this out without the letter builder, let's see if I clear this out. I'd usually start out with that long stroke, and then kind of like try to connect these and find like a best suited way to connect these lines and letters, and try to make sure that these two lines that come in here, that they overlap and they connect, so that the B will look really well.
Yeah, and something about these letters as well, you'll find with the D as well, is that rather than starting the curve where this vertical block is, actually it looks a bit like an E first before it then curves out. So there's a straight bit here, and then you have the curve. And the same on the bottom as well. And yeah, like, as you said, the top half is slightly bottom. The reason for that is to stop it looking like it's falling over. Um,
All right, so now we have a lot of people saying that there's a bad echo, so I'm trying to figure out quickly what is happening here. There might be echo on the program. Audio device.
is anyone echoing, or is it both of us?
I think it's just me. Now you shouldn't be able to hear me anymore. Okay, I'm not able to figure out. Oh, I figured it out. Now it should be better. Let's see in the comment. All right, guys, let me know right now if it's working better. It should be taking a couple seconds for me to see if that's working out. Let me know. Perfect. Is it good? Oh my gosh, thanks. Yes, amazing. I'm happy. I figured it out. There was one microphone line that was on still, which is annoying, but I'm super thankful that you guys are picking this up, and the better audio will be now. We still got how many letters do we still have? 24 after the B?
4.
Hey, we're good here. Maybe we have to cut that a little bit earlier, and then we'll do the other ones at a different point. So when I start drawing out a letter, one other thing as well is I really like to play. This is where 16 types of one letter works really well. Is when you start drawing out different styles. Like here, for example, I have this more Gothic letter. If I'm not sure how to draw a Gothic letter really well, I'll definitely go out and check on Pinterest to see if I can find an example of something that works well, of how I could do it better. And so this is how I will go around coming up with new styles, new lines, seeing where I can tweak something. Right now I'm not happy with the lower part here of the B, and even here the connection, but again, I can play around, mess up some parts. But yeah, what were you going to say? Sorry, I stopped you.
Right, again showing with the serif B, I've got this sort of E shape here, so it sort of these bits protrude straight out, and then we have this sort of moon shape crescent here.
Love it.
Gives us our B shape, and remembering to keep the bottom half slightly bigger than the bottom half, and this horizontal area here is just above, so centers is just off center as well, because this one needs to be slightly smaller. So should we move on to letter C? Let's move on to letter C.
I love this. It's kind of like this. All right, this is fun. This is going good. All right, letter C. This is where I need to ask you something. You know how you need to, there are two types of C. There's this more condensed C that we could draw like that.
Yeah,
and then the one that is super round that you were drawing probably right now. But here is the problem that I'm always having. Where do you cut the C, and how do you cut it right? What is wrong? Where are the serifs for the C, and how do you do that?
So, I normally, because there are variations of C. There isn't one set in stone, but you can either have one that finishes sort of directly down here. So let me just get rid of all this area.
Oh, I like that.
So you have one like that, which is just sort of, I suppose, the middle of the circle. If you were drawing an O, this, you go just off center and chop it completely off. That's one way. Or you continue round. So if you had, let's draw the O. here, and then you're just chopping through here and chopping through there. I suppose it's a bit like if you think of like a life belt, what they do to save people fall in the water.
Yeah.
You've got these sort of like quarters here, and we're taking out this one over here. So let me remove some of these lines to show you. So let me get rid of this area here.
It really comes down to personal preferences for every single letter. Like you could look at those letters, like I'm trying right here and I'm seeing like, oh, there might be some cool ways to play around with the letter. And so what I really would recommend anyone who's watching right now is really play around with those letters, like see how you can transform it. Can you add like serifs that are just crazy? This kind of like make it more looking like Victorian style C, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
And yours is a lot cleaner, a lot nicer, like design, slick, simple, minimalistic even, which I also really like.
So if you wanted to turn this into a serif one, then this bit sort of stays the same, but then what happens is you have like the thinner area up here, this is where it goes thinner. You have this like oval that takes out part of the letter.
Yeah. I like that.
Well, that's one. That's not a finished one, but that's you could have something like that. But let me get rid of. Draw it in again.
This is also something that I really love is when you're doing serifs, like super high contrast letters, almost stencil-like letters. You'd have like this half moon here on the one side, fill this out, and then you barely would see here anything because it's not really connected, and you would kind of have the serif going in. Whoops, wasn't connected here, and then have like the circle serif here. And so there are different ways of doing the serif C as well. Like you can have the circle at the end. You can have the same serif like the top here that I'm having. The way Ian is doing it is as well. He's like a little bit like turning them a little bit inwards, which is also very nice. And again, the suggestion is really go down to maybe a font site like DaFont or MyFonts. MyFonts is probably better because they have more professional fonts. Like DaFont is offering free fonts, so most of them are to be used for free, and so the quality is, I would say, it's still great, but it's a lot lower than paid fonts you would get. And then you can get inspired by different type of Cs, how they are all connected, and so on, and you'll find a lot of great types like that. So somebody is asking here, Cortland is asking if we can zoom out your piece a little bit. The sad answer is not really, because his camera is fixed and we're already zoomed out as much as we can. And for me, like I can zoom in more.
Let me bring it up a bit. See. There we go.
Oh, that works perfectly. Awesome. Well, good thing you asked, and good thing I said something.
Yeah. Okay. Should we move on to D?
Yes, let's move on to D. So, D's. What is tricky about D's?
I think it's the bowl of the D. So the main section is fairly straightforward. So again, it's this I shape, I suppose, rectangle.
Yeah.
That starts off same as the B, same as the E.
Yeah,
a lot of these letters, there's certain elements that replicate itself. I think what people do and why I do was start straight away going into the curve, and you end up with like this sort of weird D like this. And again, like what I said with the B, is that there's like a section that comes out first before you start curving the D. So
it only starts from the middle, like this is your center point of, let me clear that out. If you draw if you would have how do you call those circular tools? that you can use?
What, the
The
French curve?
No, the one.
The compass.
Yeah, the compass. So when you use a compass, like you would put your point right here in the middle, not over here. Like that would be that would be the weird shape that Ian just drew before. But no, you're actually drawing the circle from this side and you're connecting it here. So that would be kind of the perfect curve. Like I need to adjust the size a little bit here.
There, so.
Like that. And there you have like a perfect D. But yeah, also fun things like something that a lot of people are not aware of is your wrist is kind of like a compass too. Like this is the center point of like a circular motion. And so when I have to draw a D, I would usually go around and actually use my wrist as the circular motion, or kind of like depending on how big it has to be, depending on how I place my hand, like I can do smaller circular motions or big circular motions. The thing about the D is that usually when you're writing it out like that, that's a normal handwriting way. Doing this shape, doing this movement here is a little bit weird. So that's why I would recommend like either turn your piece of paper a couple of times and then you get like a perfect curve without a sweat, just drawing out these lines and perfectly like connecting these elements. And even like straight lines, like these lines, straight lines are drawn easily depending on how you hold your piece of paper, and not always keeping it straight the way you would see it on Instagram, because when we do it on Instagram, it's mostly because we want to record something and it's a lot less distracting if it's just drawn straight away.
So if you want to draw a serif D, the sort of same thing applies to what we did with the letter B, where you sort of, again, you come out with a bit of a straight line, horizontal straight line before you start the curve coming in.
Actually, for the D, I actually really love how it looks when you're doing a capital D in a script cursive style, because you just have so much more flow to it in some way. And so that would probably be always my favorite thing to draw. Now, if you guys are drawing it with us, please send us a picture of what you're doing right now. Even if you're watching it right now, take a picture of your setup, where you are, where you're watching it from. Is it your kitchen? Is it your bedroom? Is it your dinner table? Or wherever it is, we'd love to see where you are right now when you're drawing with us, if you're taking the time to draw as well, or if you're just chilling as well. Like, are you doing it alone? Are you doing it with a friend, with a family member who is locked in your house with you? Did you actually lock somebody else with you? That would have been a great time right now to lock people in with you. Like, if you wanted to be around somebody for a long time, like, sorry, we're in the lockdown together. You cannot leave my house anymore. And yes, if you're just joining in, you can see also the letter builder. We have a free grid sheet that you can download on the website too. And if you haven't subscribed already, that would help me out on growing my channel. You should also check out Ian's channel. He's closer to the 100,000 and close to get a YouTube subscribe button. So he's worried that I would catch up to him. So if you guys want to help me,
only because
what?
Only because you made the Instagram one a challenge.
I know. This is a fun story. At one point, I told Ian that I was actually shadowing his follower growth and trying to beat him. And he said, if you ever beat me, or if you pass me on Instagram, I won't speak to you again. And I'm glad he didn't cap that promise, because that would have been terrible. We've had just too much fun without it. Yeah, the stencil.
Should we move on?
Yes, but somebody is saying that you are doing the stencil really nice. Lindo, thank you so much. All right, letter E.
Letter E. So letter E, again, sort of repeating ourselves with this sort of...
Hey, we should just keep that bar here, that stem saved up.
And, you know, you decide how wide or narrow it needs to be. So, you know, the top and the bottom
could be super
are equal.
Close.
So in terms of things, actually the bottom is slightly longer than the top, but we won't worry about that for now.
Oh, is it?
Only by hair.
So the bottom is
the bottom and the top are the
the middle bar. So I know that the middle bar is a little bit shorter. Is the top?
Oh yeah, there's even like little tweaks to like just slightly.
Oh, wow.
The bottom is slightly more than the top, but I think that's the right way around. But you know, he's trying to remember all these things. So yeah, the top and the bottom match each other for this instance, but the middle one is this area here is taken away, because if you don't and you make it exactly the same as the top and the bottom, what happens is that optically this one looks like it's poking out too much, but actually it's level with the others, but it's actually your eyes think it looks like. It's like one of those impossible illusions. So what you need to do is just take off, I'd say, what percentage is that? About 20% of what the top and bottom have got, 25%. And it just helps weigh it out and balance it much better. So
that is so good.
And you know, it doesn't. You know, you could go up to 50% if you wanted to, and it still looks okay. But then when you narrow it down, you just have to remember to pull some off that. And also, it's slightly narrower in terms of height as well of that one. So this one in the middle is just slightly narrower than the top and bottom as well. So it's just these little tweaks that just help with those, with the sans serif letters. And if you wanted to draw serif in this style, so get rid of those, isn't it? So you have your bars coming out like we've been doing with the D and the B, and your one in the middle, and that one's obviously lower than the top ones. I normally have some vertical bars here and a vertical one in the middle, and then what I do is have these little curves that smooth out the joins, and the same with here, a little bit bigger.
Is there a rule of how big the serifs can be?
No, not really. Not that I know of. Don't quote me to that. You know, you could go really big. Thing is, that's why there's so many fonts, is because, you know, there's no limit to some of these things, and some, you know, it's just, I suppose it's keeping it consistent with the letters that you're using them with, really. That's the thing.
Yeah, and depending
on...
If
one just has massive serifs and the rest have small ones, it looks a bit odd. So you're just trying to, you know, make them look good together. So, you know, the group of letters look good together.
So some people are commenting that the E script is difficult. Do you want to add something? I've been drawing
the script of E.
Yeah, cursive.
Well, like you're drawing.
So something like that. Like there are 1,000 different variations of doing a script or cursive E. There's 1,000 variations of doing a E with serifs or sans serifs. The thing is, it really goes into practice. Yeah, well, that one is beautifully perfect, incredible.
So with that, you've just got an oval up there, and then a much bigger oval down the bottom, and just keeping those two ovals at a consistent angle. And there's an oval here as well, and they're all pointing the right direction. Actually, there's another one there. So in Calligraphy, doing script, it's about making sure that everything lines focuses the same way. Whether you're doing modern calligraphy or whether you're doing traditional calligraphy, it's all about having the consistent angle going through your letters. That's normally how I do a letter E in script.
Dang. I've been trying it like 4 times and you just like keep nailing the first attempt.
It's only because my background in traditional calligraphy just helps.
But that is nice. All right, let's look.
Think ovals. Anyway,
let's look at letter F. We're A, B, C, D, E, F. 6th letter.
So F is quite similar to, or very similar to letter E, and same rules apply. So you're not worrying about the bottom bar, but you've got your top bar and then a stem, and then you've got your bottom one, which comes out, but not as far as the other one. So again, you've got this area here which you've taken off. And also it doesn't actually matter. You determine where you have the bar. You can have these cool low stem Fs, or you can make it really high, and it gives it a certain. It just changes the personality where you put it. Obviously, you can't go too far down, otherwise it'll look like a C. But traditionally it's up here somewhere, but you can. Having a low one looks quite cool.
The thing is, letters can really be stretched in all ways. Like, imagine you stretch a F like fully in one direction, and then you squish it together and you stretch it upwards. Like, you can do a lot with a letter. That's the beauty of every drawing letters, actually, is that you have so many possibilities that you can go with. And here I'm drawing like an F, like a little bit all squished together, really thick, strong contrast. And now I can even start drawing inside. Like, I can maybe give it hide some parts here, give a little flare, kind of like a shine element to it. There are just so many different ways that you can draw one letter, and the goal is to play around. Now, one thing that I love about Fs as well, I probably love it mostly in a script style. So if we hide that, like something like that, like again, kind of like the E, I just love how it flows and how it connects. Like, you would find, sometimes you will cross a letter on Pinterest or Instagram or somewhere, and you just see it and you're like, this is gonna be my F. This is the way I'm gonna be drawing my Fs from now on. Kind of like you see a girl and you're like, that person, I'm gonna marry that person. With us, it's pretty weird. We're nerds of letters. And so when we see a letter that we really like, that we're like, this is the letter that I'm going to be stuck with for the rest of my life until I see another one that is better. But until then, it's going to be that one. And yeah, it's kind of like this. I just love how like it moves, it flows, it has that beautiful form. And you can see I've definitely fallen in love with that letter here.
I think it's just because you've got so many forms to it,
Ooh, talk about forms. Yeah, I love that too. That small cap F.
So yeah, it's very flexible actually.
Yeah.
I've forgotten how. I think it doesn't get as much attention as it deserves.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's letter G, which is quite a tricky one because so
tell me all about it.
So we're starting off with like a letter C. So get your letter C down. So we've got our letter C here, and then what we do is we add to that letter C an upright portion.
So there's a small cut right there, like it's not rounded off in your example.
No. So you're sort of overlapping this area in here.
Would it be wrong though if you did curve it?
No, well, there's no right and wrong. It's just you can curve it if you want. It depends on what you prefer. You might see one G that you think, oh, that looks really nice.
Exactly.
And you could leave it at just that, or you could add.
But yeah, you're right.
A little element inside there, slightly smaller than the sort of width of these elements. So that's one way, and you've done the condensed version there.
But yeah, you're right. It actually looks nice and clean with that cut. But yours, and see, this is where it's funny. I saw a video from Will Pat one time where he criticized the Google logo, and he said like they did their G wrong. But he then corrected, like saying like, no, actually that's the way you should be drawing it and how you should be doing it. But it's funny how like you kind of expect the roundness of the G just curve around, but somehow it's kind of like disconnected. But that depends again on what font you're looking at. Like if you're looking at a Helvetica, like if you really take it apart and you look at all the geometrical shapes of it, it's actually really interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, because something we haven't touched on is the fact that the letter O normally isn't a circle, like a perfect circle. It's normally much narrower, because otherwise you've got quite a wide letter with the letter O if you do a perfect circle.
Yep.
And it takes up too much space. And so actually it's more of a slightly curved, it's like an oval, but slightly more squarish. I don't know if it's the right thing. Yeah, and it also depends, because like most of the time I use a sort of slightly more condensed O, because I'm trying to fit it like a word into maybe a quote or something, and actually there just isn't room to do a complete circle. Sometimes it looks quite cool mixed in with maybe some condensed ones, but actually it's the room it takes up is the thing that means I do it in a slightly smaller version.
All right,
so that's doing the sans serif.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to do the
you're going for it. I'm gonna start preparing the H here because time and people's attention span. We're doing the opposite of actually 5-minute attention span. We're drawing something which takes a lot of time. We're slowing time down but still trying to make the most out of the time. Oh, this is a good.
I suppose quickly, the serif one is similar, but you're taking out this area here and this area here, and this area in here, and just you've got that bit which we had in the section that comes down. So we're drawing a letter C and then overlaying with that area there, just adding a serif part there and a serif up there. There we go. Just clear that a minute. So the letter H.
So the letter H, kind of the same way, like you have those two long stems, like the B, E, and F that we've seen already a couple times today. And then the crossbar, which again, you can choose, like, depending on where you want to put your crossbar, if it's low, high, middle, it will usually be centered in the middle. Like for example,
slightly off center.
Slightly off
center if you, just because it's another optical thing where actually it's only slightly. But just because the way your eye interprets it, is that it looks off center if it's in the center.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's only like small. But then, like you say, you can have it, you can have it really low, or you can have it really high.
So before we move on too far, somebody asked a script letter G.
Script letter G.
So here is one. We have like a great logo for, there's a Good Type accounts that features a lot of great, beautiful lettering pieces, probably the biggest lettering account out there right now. And yeah, the Good Type G is a very well designed one. Basically start from the top, kind of like the E, you will curve that around, create this nice oval shape, pick it back up, and then usually even here on the top can do it like a little loop, go back down around, and then loop it again outwards, and then draw it out. But you can also loop it kind of like Ian did it, the way in the back. Really depends on your preferences. And then again, adding the contrast, the weight, usually on the sides, kind of where the downstroke would be. So in this case, because you're starting from the top and going down, you'd have that thicker downstroke there. Something that I learned from a calligraphy expert was that the crossing of two elements, you would usually rarely have two thick parts crossing each other. So in this case here, the G shouldn't cross with the thick part in here. So I'm not going to take that thicker part lower than that, but kind of like leave it outside, connect upwards
So
and downwards.
normally you'd have two thin bits crossing each other. You'd have a thick bit crossing a thin bit, but you'd never have a thick bit crossing a thick bit.
Exactly, yeah.
So because it just creates, like when we were talking about the top of the A, it creates just too much going on in that area. It's too much weight.
Exactly, it's too heavy. All right, moving on, the H as well for the script version. There's so many different ways that you can do it. Like, this is probably my favorite one, where it's a loop on top, one that's lower down, and then just connecting here, like hello, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of like the way you did it as well was to go up from the bottom up and then straight down. You can also, sometimes people will connect kind of like an A or have like loops around. So there are a ton of different ways. Again, I really recommend to look up inspiration and then find out like your favorite A, the A that you're going for, that you are falling in love with. Let me see if I can actually turn my iPad around that way. I have a little bit more screen real estate going on. Like that. Anything else that we need to talk about the letter H?
No, you can get quite creative with the crossbar like you can with the A.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can just create some cool effects. Again, you know, you want to keep it quite thin because it's going through those two thick parts. But you know, you can have a line, or you can have a shape. Circle.
One style that I love as well is kind of this one where you draw that out. It's a really thin one, so it's more Western style.
Oh, yeah.
And so now what I would do is here I would duplicate these elements here and just like move them up. The serifs at the bottom as well.
Oh, making the serifs oversized.
Exactly.
So you're like reversing the contrast, aren't you? So
exactly.
you're putting the contrast on the serifs rather than on the.
And I don't know why this was so popular during the cowboy Western time, but you would see a lot of signs in that time that would have kind of this cross. Like that.
Yeah. Maybe gave some impression to, wanted, and it was like,
yeah,
immediacy and
but see, seriousness. This is also what I really love about fonts, really, is that you can tell where the what era this letter was drawn in, or kind of like where it was used, like Gothic letters or like scripts letters, depending on what style, Victorian. Like you can go into the 90s or the 80s, 70s, the hippie time, where you have more like round letters, and sometimes there's reasons exactly why they had this type of style. So kind of learning all about that is really fun, and that's probably also a series that I want to do. Is kind of like diving into a certain era and like lettering all the styles of the letters. All right, letter I. This is my arch nemesis. It's I'm bored with that letter. How do you do it?
Yeah, so that's depending on what sort of style I'm doing. Obviously, that's the basic, just a line.
That is it. That's why I'm struggling so much with it.
If you're doing
a little slab. Slab serif means actually that the serifs have about the same weight as the letter itself. So it's kind of like a monotype, but the serifs have the same thickness and weight as the stroke of the letter will have too.
But it's just making sure that top and bottom are equal and don't, if the top's too heavy, it starts to look like a T. If you extend it out too much and the bottom's not following suit, it's like verging on a letter T there. So that's one way. Or you have, you can have just normal serifs.
Yeah, and then you can just do like small pointy bits. Probably the one that I struggle with most is the script I. The not even like block letters, that is doable. But going for a script style I, how do you do that?
Script style.
Oh yeah. While you're at that, you're just finishing drawing the dot on the I. Tell me a little bit something about the dot, like what size should be the dot of the I?
So the I, because it's circle, needs to be slightly wider than it should be a better circle than that. But
so the here we have a circle part on the letter builder, and I think that is a great example because if you look at that, this is a almost perfect size of how far out the line should be. So you can see here it crosses nicely over.
Yeah, so it's with circle letters, they slightly go bottom and top, they go slightly under the line, slightly over the line, just because the circle doesn't take up as much room when it gets to the bottom as a flat letter. So it just extends to create a balance between the rectangle letters and the circle letters.
And
that's the reason why.
And in here, like the O here would have this kind of like, this would be a straight letter on this line. Then we have this curved letter that would go a little bit on top. And then if you have like a pointy letter, like an A, depending on the shape of the A, it would go even higher up than the circle part. So those are just some basic elements about visual, like optical adjustments to know. And as soon as you know that, like square, circle a little bit outside, and then the pointy bits, kind of like a triangle, then you have all the right elements you need to know. So show me the I for a script cursive style.
So a script, like brush script one, I normally do like that. So I'm doing my name. Or thing is, it's a tricky one in any style, I think.
Would you ever connect it?
No, because
you would kind of draw this out like a long line, kind of like a hook.
Because like in trying to get one with because in traditional calligraphy it's like that. That's the letter I.
Yeah. Ooh, but that's beautiful.
Whereas the J, it can look quite like the J, but the J goes down.
Yeah.
Like that. So the problem is it can look like a J sometimes. Right. If you go over the board. I do. Mine's very just is like that. But then that it's sort of that first stroke of the H really. If you went like that, it'd be like. It's a tricky one. I've never been that happy with trying to find. Because I don't think that looks very nice if you do like a traditional eye like that. So even for me, it's normally like that. I normally do. Try not to make too much of the bottom so it doesn't look like a J really. And then if I'm doing a lowercase one, it's that's sort of brush scripty.
That looks beautiful. That looks kind of like the Incredibles, the logo from the Pixar series. I love that one. Let's look at the J, which I feel like, not just people struggle with that, but also a lot of people that I see do one mistake that I see over and over again. And And it's interesting to see that. You shouldn't feel bad when you see it, or if you see it and you're like that's how I would draw a J.
So there's a few ways you can draw a J. So you can have it cut off quite early.
Yeah. Or do it all the way
around. You can have like a little J, or go a bit further if you wanted to.
This one looks kind of like a Ronald McDonald's foot somehow. But you can go by the eye and just see how do you like that best.
Yeah, because obviously one takes up more room than the other. Yeah.
Now the mistake that I see the most is when you see people drawing by hand, like handwriting, they would write a J kind of like this. So like that, and say Julie. So this part here is actually really tricky, and that's a big tricky mistake that you will transfer into your lettering if you're not careful about it, is that they will create a part that is something like this. And if you look at that, depending on how I move it, it's kind of like the Frankenstein of a T and a J. So here we have really a T and a J kind of combined into one letter. To make a T out of that, I just have to erase this part and fill out the rest part here. And so you can see this here, those are just the serifs of the J. It's not the actual part. So even if it was a slab serif J, the serifs would only go out a little bit like this far. Or
definitely.
Or in this case, would go out here. Another part that I've seen as well is also somebody did kind of like the a serif on top of a serif.
Yeah.
So as we saw before, this is the serif, but then you would add a serif on top of the serif. So it's kind of like having an E where you have the serif here, but you add another serif in here as well. This is why it's bothering me so much when I see that happening, is because it's a mistake that's super easily avoidable if you know it. But again, it's all about knowing it and finding out about it.
Yeah, I think I like quite because the thing is the J and the U are quite similar in terms of the characteristics, and so but I prefer making it much smaller so it sort of finishes and doesn't use up too much space.
And then
probably maybe like that.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. I always come to it in sort of different ways. Sometimes I like it quite subtle like that, or making it a little bit bigger, or having a bit at the top. And when I come to doing it, if I'm doing a serif one, I keep those serifs quite short. And then when I get to the bottom, so this bit here, it's like a sort of got a bit of a curve on it, and as you get to the bottom, you then sort of this all stays thin, and then you maybe have a circle on the end.
Oh, I love that one. Now this is also where I would love to play. If you have kind of this round thing going on, even taking kind of playing with a drop that will go out here. You can stylize it so much, and this is where for example, I love Mark Caneso's work. Caneso. Terrible with names.
Oh.
Are you any better?
No, terrible. It took me ages to get your name right.
Well, same here.
Pronounce your name right.
I was always thinking it's Ian, not Ian.
Yeah, I can see that. It should be EAN if you were doing it. If you were looking at it, because you're pronouncing E instead of I.
So here you can see there's so many different ways that you can play around with it, make it drawing it. There are definitely some adjustments that I would do here, like kind of like Ian did it here. He has a lot more space in between, but I like this kind of like this gap.
Ceres at the top there.
Yeah. So again, it's all about having fun, finding the J that is right for you, that you love, that you fall in love with, that you want to connect with, and have a relationship. Now, this is getting too deep. Moving on. But yeah, as well, you showed before kind of like the how to do a script J as well.
Oh, yeah,
I think yours was a lot better than mine.
So normally if I'm, that would be a sort of brush script one.
Yeah.
So like that. I never really go across the top. I'm not a big fan of it. I just prefer it.
So I love to do kind of like this up here and this downstroke there, and then kind of adding here the weight onto the side, and then getting more weight towards the bottom, not all the way to the top. Filling it all out and kind of like getting some weight in here. But that's about it. All right, let's move on to K.
Hey, how are we doing on time? Are we going to have to do like a part 2?
We are doing it as far as we come. I have another appointment, which has just got a little bit scheduled out a little bit, so we're fine on time. I don't know when you have to go. You have kids and family that you have to look after.
No, I'm good. The kids are all having fun indoors, I think. My wife's entertaining them.
Awesome.
I'm very thankful. Okay, so letter K. We can always timestamp this at the end so people can go straight to the letter and have a look
good
at
idea. So if anyone, I know that our community is actually super helpful. There are people who do that and who really help us out with that. Christina Pop is asking, is Stefan using Paperlike? The answer is we both are. You can see
you've got the new one. I've got the old one because I'm scared of putting, because you did this for me. You put this one on for me. I'm scared that I'll do it and it'll be all all wrecked. Actually, I've got it here. This is the new one. I've had it for ages. I just need to build up the confidence. Maybe this is the time. Being locked inside.
See, to be honest, and I'm talking with Paperlike to sponsor our videos here, our streams, because they're so kind and want to work with creators just like you and me. I want to show people how easy it is to actually put on the screen protector, and we could probably do it together. Like, it's really easy. They all have the perfect tools to do that, which is awesome. So I thought actually kind of like you, waited for a very long time before I did it, but I was happy that I did it, put it on, and I'm also ready for a new one. Like, after a while, if you draw a lot, like, you'll use up the screen. It will get less matte. It will just lose a little bit of that beautiful paper texture, which is awesome. And kind of like even the sound that is just beautiful when you hear like the scratching, like it's beautiful.
So we've got 2 different Ks there going on, haven't we? But they both look fine. So like with the K, it's not so noticeable in yours, but on mine, it's this top one is slightly further ahead than the bottom one.
Right.
Just fall over. But you can either like start by drawing this one here first and then drawing the other leg that's coming out of that. And you can change that as well. You can sort of adjust where the central part is, because I know people find that very frustrating, the K. Start again.
So Lewis Richard is asking, how often do you change your Apple Pencil nibs? I just replaced mine, and you would be surprised how much you use up the pencil nibs. I don't know, when have you changed your nib recently?
I haven't changed it on this one yet.
Oh, yeah?
I don't think I've got a spare one. I don't think they gave you...
Oh, there
wasn't a spare one in my box.
They do give you one. It's hidden somewhere inside the box. So so
then I might change it this week.
Yeah, I would do that, because if you're really close, after a while, like this one is pretty brand new. It should be more round. Like the other one was pointy, and like I probably could scratch something, and that's why kind of like you realize that drawing a lot will actually do that. And especially for the pieces where I use kind of the pencil strokes and kind of want to have that pencil texture, kind of like that, that's like that will use up so much of it. Somebody's asking also how to do the K, the script style. So cursive, let's see. Maybe again like this. Is this just me, or are we always kind of like leaning in on cursive?
What do you mean leaning in?
So they're always kind of like italics, kind of like they have a slant.
Yeah, I just naturally do that.
Yeah, me too. I only realize that right now. So again, after I've drawn the style of K, or the kind of the bone structure, that's when I would start like adding kind of the weights. And so again, the idea is always to add the weights to the downstrokes of your letters, of your strokes. Add the weight to the downstrokes. Oh yeah, and if you need inspiration anyway for letters, right now is kind of the perfect time, because a lot of people are doing the 36 days of type challenge. I only started and then lost track of it with all this virus and stuff going on, and also then starting out these live streams, which are a lot of fun. Actually, I realized that I've been creating a lot more since I started these drawing challenges, these live streams, because being live forces me to create, to play around, to actually do something, which is also fun. Yours looks like origami, or that puzzle that has like all these different pieces that you have to fit together and create like all these shapes.
Yeah, that's just right. You look at the elements of it. So you got that bit. You can do that bit if you've done it all the other letters. And then you've got this one, which is sort of, if you were to continue down, it sort of cuts through, so it would end up about here-ish. And then this one, once you've drawn that, I always draw this one first, and then I draw this one that sort of comes out of this area here. And we're going to use this element later when we do the letter R. So,
a little preview of what's to come, guys. That's awesome. Sneak peek, sneaking that into. All right, let's see. K, what comes after K? The L.
Okay.
All right, L.
Let me. Well, you drew the layout. I'm just going to do a quick serif K.
Do a small cap serif K as well.
Hang on. So with a serif K, you only have the weight on this leg here. Otherwise, it just becomes too much. So that's what we're looking at. So this one comes down, sort of crosses just over under the middle, and then you can bring out this leg here. So that's the K. Okay, we're on L now. So L is similar to those other letters like E, where we have, I normally don't have it go all the way to the end here, because I just think it looks a bit weird when the bottom is as long as the top or similar to the top. I quite like it being quite short. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've been focusing on the script style L, and kind of love how it connects, how you can play around with it. Like you can go through the top, through the bottom, you can connect it differently. You can also like flip it around, like it doesn't have to go up again. There's so many variations that you can take on that letter, and especially since lettering kind of starts with the L, you will see a lot of great examples of lettering L's and stuff like that. So really recommend to play along, to go look up some inspiration on Pinterest, on Instagram. Again, it's all about finding that L that you will fall in love with, and I can say this enough apparently, but it is the truth. But yeah, for the other type, for the block style, it's really just that base, finding the nice weight, maybe even having that crossbar here, the lower part, be a little bit thinner than the rest, and fill it out. And also usually, because I hate space, so I kind of always want space to be balanced out really well. Whenever I do all the way, which I do sometimes, this here becomes such a big gap in between my letters, which I really try to avoid. And so that's why I kind of try to keep it shorter, just like that. And then also something that I often will do, and it's just a little bit, is just trying to point these out a tiny little bit, because that will make your edges so much stronger in every single letter. Just having these point out a tiny little bit will make them sharp and kind of pointy, and you'll see that in a lot of my work.
I did notice that in your work. You do a lot of you add sort of like a really, really tiny bit of a serif to it.
Love that.
Okay, let L, not too taxing on the L.
All right, let's see. Next letter after the L is the M.
Yes. So this is where we had to, when we're using left builder, is that we didn't compromise the shape of the M, because an M is sort of, I think, 1.5 sizes bigger than the rest of the letters. So M and W are much wider than say an A.
But it does still. I kind of like this style of M that fits in nicely in here.
Quite condensed.
But yeah, W doesn't work in this style. An M and a W are not just reversed. So you couldn't take this M, or I don't even have to do that. I just have to rotate that around. This is not a W. This is this is just an M reversed.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of sort of W's with really hard sides.
Yeah.
I prefer sort of slight angle to.
Yeah. So this is what I learned from Ken Barber in Ken Barber's workshop, that I just sat in for 3 seconds. But he was talking about kind of these lines. So if you have all of these guidelines, then a W would kind of hit on 5 points. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you kind of would connect these together, and that would be a W. However, an M could be connected on just 3. So most letters would be connected on 3. So here, 1. Whoa, I just lost Procreate. So 1, 2, 3, kind of like that.
Yeah. So with M, these diagonal parts are, the width of those is narrower than the width of the horizontal parts, because again they sort of overlap here. I'll just fill it out. So these areas, these ones are slightly narrower than the main vertical stems.
Yeah.
And so you can either have a point to yours, or you can make it blunt if you want it to. We can make it go much further down, but if you do that, then you just need to make sure that you compensate the top half of it as well.
And then as well for the script M, if you go through that, of course we cannot cover everything, but the weight is mostly on these parts here, on the downstrokes again, and then focusing here as well on the downstrokes. But then you have like nice flourishes sometimes. They're all different kinds. I'm not even sure what I'm doing, but this kind of looks all right. But then there's also a second M that I like to do, which is more of top down, like kind of like a small cap M, but made in a capital size letter, kind of like this. And you're finishing up a beautiful serif M.
It's thin stroke up, thick stroke down, thin stroke up, thick stroke down.
Love that. I see Tanya, Claire, Maria, Balram, Maril, DM kids, all in here. Excited for you guys to be here in the stream. Yeah, that's also beautiful. Oh, I love that one actually. I love actually going in then to more of a like banner style M's that overlap, that have lots of loops. For example, like something like that. And then you kind of like make them overlap here and then go under on the other sides. So much you could do with those M's. All right, let's look at the next letter, letter N, the Netflix N. Probably also one of my favorites. One popular video that I got to make that went viral was the Netflix logo. And actually, to be fully honest and transparent, I kind of copied that from Seb Lester. Like he did that really well, and he did that with a nib pen, and I was like blown away. And I did that only with the letter builder and grid builder, but it was so easy. So an N, really easy, crossbar, and the two long stems, and does really fit well together.
Okay, we're back online.
Oh, you're back online. Did I miss you?
Sorry, I don't know what happened to my internet.
Oh.
It just seems to
Well, we're trying to stream on two different channels. We're going through Google Hangout, Zoom, and trying to pull all of these elements together. So yeah. Man, I feel really bad now that I didn't even notice that you were gone for a while. Just saw that you were stuck. But yeah, we're on the letter N and doing the Netflix N in some way.
Yeah. The thing with the little tips on the N is this area in the center that joins up the two diagonals. That is slightly narrower than the outside.
And then comes the second part that's also a big mistake that I see other people doing, is when they're drawing in a serif styled N, they'd make the two parts here, the long stems, vertical stems, they would make those thick and then connect these with a thin line, kind of like that.
Yeah, so with an N, it's the thickest. It's weird, isn't it? Because like actually the thickest area of a serif N is actually the.
Well, it makes sense when you learn about the thick and thin strokes. Like if you're drawing an N, like again, ups like an N, how you would draw it would be in this case. Let's see, I need to show that. Yeah, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, and that's kind of the right way to draw it. And then comes some other things that are interesting as well, kind of like we said, like the thick downstroke here, but then also it can connect at the end here and be left blank. Let's erase here a little bit so I can drop in the color. And then here would have the serifs at the end. And that's also one way of doing an N. Yeah, kind of like Ian is doing now as well.
Yeah, so it's actually the bottom doesn't have the serif on it, and also this middle section, like I made the mistake just a minute ago in doing it, is actually it's this sort of shape. It's not like a perfect. It's not like this perfect rectangle that's just been sort of sheared. It's actually like it sort of finishes in a point there with a line coming there and a line coming there. So it's so where it, maybe draw the outline, probably easier to see that. So we have straight bit of the serif there, straight bit of the serif there. What it does is it hits that line, and then there's like a bit of a gap either at the top or the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to describe it, but that line there hits the bottom, but it doesn't hit the top. It hits just below the top. The same here. The diagonal comes down and hits above the bottom, not right at the bottom. So if you continue with it down, it would hit the bottom over there somewhere, and that would hit the top over there. And so you just get rid of that.
I like that.
There.
Yeah, and then for the script style, I have like two ways of doing it. One is kind of like, again, small cap letter, like the N that you would draw like normally if it was small cap. Then just doing it in a capital size style, or probably more the traditional way is like going from the bottom down and then pulling it up. And as well here you have a lot of flexibility with what you can do here on the top. Like you can take it away. Here's the bottom. That it's nice. Like for example, if you're drawing, like you can, I don't know what style would that be, but something like that. But you can really take a nice ligature from the bottom out. All right, moving on.
No, it's fine. I suppose, your previous, that one at the bottom is like a combination of a sort of a bit of a serif and script coming sort of hybrid. So the next letter is O.
O. Basically a circle. Again, just watch out for that little optical adjustments that you need to do. So there's these things. And also, not necessarily always fully same width. So for example, the sides here, that is like X, and this height would be Y. So again, the side should be a little bit thicker, depending on where you want to put your weight, of course. But usually that's where you would add the weight would be this one here. So X is greater than Y, which means, for example, X could be 7 and Y could be 6 or 5. Anything lower than 7.
Yeah.
Random numbers.
As you can see here, that's the perfect circle, and the O is slightly brought in at the edges. And you can make it like you're doing there. You can make it more condensed. I normally use a more condensed one.
Me too.
I don't know about you.
Yeah, most times.
Because it's just like, for me, it just takes up too much space doing it more.
Yeah, but then sometimes it's like really nice. So if you have, for example, an N over here, and then you have the O, and then it will touch both sides, kind of like here you'd have the E. It could really fit in nicely like this. I love this gap that is kind of like, has this pointiness to it, and kind of if those letters connect in some way, it really looks nice. It can absolutely work. It doesn't have to, but it can. So here we have Kiara Bittinger, who's asking, what's your favorite letter? What is your favorite letter, Ian?
Actually, after we've been doing F, that was quite nice. But I do like R as well.
Yeah.
I'm quite a big fan of R. Quite a tricky letter to get right, especially with the leg sticking out. But what about you?
Yeah, F probably has to be one of the favorites. But it really depends. Like I love this S that I found out one time. Like that's the S that I'm sticking with. There are like letters like the R as well. Like there are different types of style of doing like an R. like just straight and then connecting. B's are also really nice because they have those beautiful loops. But yeah, the R could be used in different ways. So there are a lot of different letters. Like I don't like boring letters. Again, kind of like the I, or what else is boring? O could be very boring as well. Like, of course, I like, again, kind of what you're drawing right now, the serif-styled O, that has a lot of strong contrast. That one is beautiful because it's iconic. It is a great shape.
What do you do when it comes to script one? I know you're just trying to finish that off.
Script style. Let's look at script style. Actually, the O, I like the O for script style because
I quite like joining it up in that sort of style.
Yeah. Yours is beautiful.
Yeah, that sort of.
It's kind of this, and especially for the style that I draw with mostly, it's kind of like bottom and top heavy. The O really does well in that style.
I just do a bigger version of what I normally do for a smaller version.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like what I do with my N, my M's, and stuff like that as well.
Sometimes I do the sort of one where it's got the connecting joint. But normally if I'm doing a big O.
All right, what's the next letter? P?
P. Okay, so P is a bit like, takes its similarities from the F. So we've got that big rectangle and we've got bits coming out again. Remembering that there's a bit of a straight horizontal before you get into the curve.
What I actually like to do is to take my crossbar a little bit lower and give that bowl like really a lot more space. And so I kind of like adjust this line. So I'll take kind of like this line here and like just drag it down a little bit longer and further.
Yeah, I prefer a sort of.
And so that
it has like a bit of more of a like. What you've done here is just like this, rather than curving it all the way down, is that you've got a section in here, straight there, and then you've got the curve just on the corners.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you were to piece that all together.
Yeah, I like that. It's nice if you visualize it like that. That is kind of like these are the curvy parts. Like this still has a tiny little curve. Like it's not straight flat. It still has it takes off that curvature, but it's not as strong, and still takes on. And that's kind of like my base for the R as well. In most cases, is like my R would be pretty much the same way, and then it would like. Would be taking there, but we'll look that in a second.
Actually, something that helps is when you're drawing these letters that have got curves, is drawing like a square version at first. So you draw a square version, it looks like a P, but it's a bit ugly. You can then curve just those edges there. So with an eraser or something, you can just quickly start getting those curves in.
Mm-hmm.
So you just need to make a little curve rather than, because like something that's quite hard is drawing a big curve in one go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already looking a bit more rounded.
And also what you can do is really like stylize your letters again, like cut it out, like maybe cut it out just around here. And maybe even like cheat a little bit with the shapes and sizes, but kind of to give you an idea of what you can really do kind of like a varsity P. Playing around with letters, that's really where the fun is all about. And so also I drew a couple of P's as well here with a kind of like script style. I think you have the more traditional style of P that you're drawing, where it's kind of like, not actually even sure how you do yours, but I know that you kind of like something like that maybe.
Yeah, let me try one. The thing is, it's just these little touches that can completely change the letter.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I do that. The thing is, I don't often use, like, unless I'm doing something that needs sort of quite a traditional looking P in it.
Yeah,
I normally use a sort of brush script P, so I just normally do quite a...
Yeah, love that.
Like that sort of P.
All right, let's move on to Q. Oh, that one is nice. That's kind of like a comic.
Yeah, so Q.
Similar like an O, really?
Yeah. So and then once you've drawn the O, you can go to town with how you do the little. I could say that the terminology for what you call
the tail actually.
It's the tail.
Yeah.
And so like you can either just go traditional and put in a rectangle, slightly narrower and slightly narrower than the actual width of the O, or you can go for a curved one at the bottom. Especially if this is going to be the first letter, you can really give it some sort of.
This is beautiful. Yeah. Remember at the workshop in London where you came with me, the workshop that I was teaching. Somebody, like, I had that question, like, oh, what is this called? And I was like, maybe let's call it the tail. And somebody's like, yeah, that's actually what it's called. Send me like a picture of the actual fact-checking thing. Like, I don't know all the terminologies of all these elements, and it's a great basis if you are wanting to sound professional. Sounds professional, absolutely. If you know kind of what you're talking about, it also helps. It will give confidence to your clients in that style. But don't be afraid of, like, I don't know what these things are called. Like, neither do we most of the time. Like, we have learned quite a bit, but yeah, still so much to be learned. Yeah, again, it's kind of like practicing where to put it, what's the best place, and then filling it out. Seeing how that looks.
Yeah, and I think in this one, I think I love the script one because then you can have a bit more of a contrasty. I know, not script. I mean in the serif.
Yeah.
And then have because you've got that gap where, and then you can have a bit more contrasty tail to it. So.
To be really honest, I'm not sure exactly how to do a script style Q. I don't think I've ever used. I rarely have ever drawn anything with a Q in script.
I normally do an O with a.
Well, that works.
O with a tail normally.
Yeah. Definitely could check that up and see what we could do better. All right, moving on. Letter R. R like
Yay.
Robert. We had Rochelle in the chat as well. She asked about the R. That was at the beginning of the video, so an hour later, or 1.5 hours later, we're here and we're finally doing the R. So
yeah. So again, we are actually this. You strut out slightly before you start doing your actually let's try do the square method. So doing the whole of this case, we draw an R, draw the top bit, we get our P shape.
Yep.
Start curving it, It's like chiseling out, really. And then you can sort of raise it with your...
I kind of like, I use the base for the P absolutely as well. Like, I feel like it's the perfect setup, and then kind of like add that our, what is it, tail as well? Leg? Our leg.
Add the leg.
Yeah, the leg.
So with the R leg, it actually struts out slightly further than where the bulb comes out. So this little bit here. Little toe, I suppose, could be sticking out.
Could be that terminology. Let's see if I can find anything about that terminology in here. But yeah, see, getting some good inspiration. Like if I would look up here, I see the beautiful F from that book, and I'd be like, oh, this is perfect. Like, how can I draw something, an R that is similar to this here? So kind of like stylized, so it would have, it's not perfectly flat here, neither is the bottom. And then kind of like taking the cues here, like here it's all rounded. See?
What I find tricky, and I know other people find tricky with the leg of the R, is getting it to balance with the rest of the letter.
Yeah.
And it's getting that weight distribution so it matches this one. Because when something's at a diagonal, it can look a different weight, even if it is the same weight. If you try and make it the same width, it may look different. So there's another optical hurdle, I suppose, you have to get over. So it's just sort of trying out and just saying, okay, does the weight of that look okay? But again, like you, I quite like making my R's slightly like the P, making the bulb come down a bit.
Man, I'm having troubles here with, there we go. So again, I let myself be inspired by this style of F here that I learned. Then I can see like this R over here, that could also be a very interesting letter to look at. But you see there's so many different styles that you can take it, like rounded, edgy. You can have all of these like a little bit more, kind of like comic style. And so there's so much inspiration you can draw from books, from the internet, from Facebook, from Instagram, Pinterest, wherever you are, and find all of these awesome things. Supernova is the Ultimate Lettering Workshop playlist playing in the background. The answer is no. There is so much copyright on that music from the Ultimate Lettering playlist that I could not use it. But the Ultimate Lettering playlist is available on Spotify. You can find it by actually typing in the Ultimate Lettering playlist. It's a little bit more deep house styled electronic music. This music here is royalty free, and it's provided by the nice folks at Epidemic Sound, who actually created me a whole brand new playlist, except for the tracks you're hearing now. So if we want to go back, I love the new tracks that we had at the beginning. Now let me just move back here. Yes.
While you're doing that, the thing about the R is that you can customize this leg to, like you've been doing,
Oh, but I just love the R that you just had, like it's not connected, like it's like standing out here again. Like you don't even have to connect it this way. Like you can actually just cut it out and then kind of like connect it through the bottom here and like have it out. That's really cool. And you can play with that as well.
Yeah, it's just like you can then extend the R. What the R is, you can extend it down and then use that to sort of maybe go under some other letters.
And then finally for the script style R's, like probably the most traditional, kind of having this here, and Ian is probably going to do a better style.
I don't often use that one. I normally go for the brush script R, which is sort of a bit more like that.
Yeah.
Is that the sort of one you do?
Yeah, kind of like the stylized version where it's where the weight distribution is just perfectly balanced in some way, and yeah, playing around with all of these, again, also a letter to fall in love with.
Sort of do a P, and then I just add the leg, normally coming not right out of where the join is, but a little bit further in.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much different it looks from where, you know, if you put it there, it looks quite, you know, like it's kicking a bit more, and there it looks a bit more refined. I don't know. Do you notice your camera's moved?
Oh. That was my mistake. Whoa. That is still in liquefy mode. So yeah, I kind of wanted to bring out that shape here.
You can alter a letter quite a lot by, you know, where you know, you can have like a really big curved part to it and a tiny leg, or you can have a little curved part and a bigger leg.
And then only to test out the letters, like if you draw just one letter, like that's totally fine, but if you want to really give it a real try and see how does it really work if it's close up, then yeah, absolutely a great way to try that out. Felicia, just we can see that the stream is a little bit lagging. It takes a little bit of time to upload and then to play and run, and so that's why I like people seeing the comments right in the back, or just a little bit later. But yeah, trying out your letters also with other letters like in a word also shows you how well it works and if there's some adjustments that you need to make. Moving on to letter S. What do we...
Oh, letter S.
Letter S. So letter S, actually with the letter builder, pretty easy job, I would say. What do you think?
Yeah. So I'll show you for people you know who want to just do it freehand. So letter S is, you're starting off with two ovals. One which is slightly bigger. The one on the top is slightly smaller than the one on the bottom, or you know, vice versa. At least.
Yeah.
And then you've got like another circle, another oval inside it, and it's mainly a letter. If you think about the S as a letter 8, it helps you understand what you're trying to do, and then you just chop it up the top there and chop it down the bottom. And now if I erase these elements down here, you're starting to see the shape of that.
I love that
letter S there.
Without the letter builder, like in my mind, and the more you do it, of course, the more you'll visualize it in your mind, you'll know how to draw it. It's still a lot easier to do that with the letter builder, but I would start off with kind of like the top and the bottom, and then kind of like curving this out, and then just kind of like connecting the middle part, and then finally finishing it off. And so you will find a way that works best for you, that you know kind of like how it works. Like here again, the example from Ian, like he has more of a middle straight line as well. And talking about this as well, for a serif or like more contrast rich letter, I see a lot of people doing this. A common mistake is people putting up the weight of the letter on both sides, on the left and the right, kind of like that. And because they see that as a straight line, that's the line that goes down. But in most cases, again, the right way would be to, if you have the S like that, and since this is also my first letter of my name, it's I have probably a little bit more practice of drawing this letter than anyone else that doesn't have that in their name.
Yeah, so it's remembering that the middle section is where the weight is on that.
Yeah, exactly.
And also another thing is you can see in mine, because I need to adjust it, how the S is heading that way. It's sort of rocking to the left a bit, you know, and so what you're trying to do is adjust the bottom and just the top until it's looking like it's not falling over.
It's perfect.
So, you know, that's a bit better. You know, just bringing out that and then maybe bring that around will help it to do that. So that's another thing, is trying to balance it out so it's not falling over to the left or falling over to the right. Another way I'd build it is I would do two sort of like diagonal lines. Actually, I do 3 sets of 2 diagonal lines.
Oh, nice.
Like that. And then just curving the inner bits of those, and then, you know, so you don't have to do one massive curve, just join up those.
All right.
Adjusting it just to fit so it doesn't, you know, it's this area here. You want these all to be equal and not too. I sometimes give it too much weight, and then it looks a bit like it's had too much food.
And then finally here on my screen, you see like 2 script styled S's. Like the one that I love the most is kind of like the top heavy. But then of course you can also do the bottom heavy S, or kind of more the traditional way of doing an S is kind of like the overloop and then going down. And the small S, like small size S, kind of more like that. Of course.
Yeah, I've started to do one with the sort of actually reverses what we've just been saying.
Yeah,
so the top half is much bigger than the bottom half.
It has a style to it, and that's why that's why I love this way of doing it. It's a personal preference. Again, for anyone who's watching, you need to go with what you like and what you feel is best for you. All right, looking at the next letter, letter T. Now we have to keep up a pace a little bit. We have T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Still 8 letters left. Maybe we can smash them in 1 minute each. You'll start with the letter T. I'll start with the letter U. Maybe we can do 2 letters at the same time, and then you can talk about the T first.
So the T is quite straightforward. So actually, I do sometimes like that, but actually I prefer my T to be slightly narrower on the top. Making sure they're equal, and the distance there is less than the distance of that to make it. Otherwise, if this is too heavy, it just feels too top heavy. So we're just trying to balance the top and sides. And then actually something with the serif part of it is not adding the serif to a big chunky bit at the top. It's just having
a light top
line at the top, and then curving those lines. Or it's a bit fatty at the bottom there.
Yeah, and for the U, I really just follow the lines here, give it a nice curve at the bottom. So this is really basically a one size U that you can see here. But then again, if you want to kind of like add some contrast to it, kind of like the O as well, just cut off some fats of that middle bar here, the cross section, and then you can also just combine here, adding some serifs at the top. That's where they would be placed. And yeah, some U's would have like even a lower part, but I don't believe that they would have in a. Do you do the one? Oh yeah, that's actually true.
So the U is a bit like a reverse of the A, I suppose.
Yeah.
So you have like thick downstroke and then thick upstroke. But I think with the U, you can sometimes get away with having it quite. You can have it on both. You know, there's exceptions to the rule. It doesn't look too bad when you've got it on both, but a traditional one is like that. So because you're going thick stroke, thin stroke. Yeah. So it depends what you're doing. I like the ones that you do where you've just got a tiny bit of serif, but it's all the same thickness all the way through. So, and then a quick. That would be my script U.
Yeah, I would also go with like a big bow, and then even here, kind of like giving it a little bow around. Often enough, I would like really add strong bows here, but I've learned from client work that they rather have less lines rocking back and forth. Like simpler letters is kind of what you go for. And
and you don't want it to look, because like it could end up looking like an N.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
If you're not too careful. So
and I believe that's why also I made my U go down, like thick stroke go down, is because you would go up here but then have a thick stroke down here as well. But yeah. All right, next letter V.
So letter V is like nearly identical to the A, where we
have it reversed.
Where we draw these lines which narrow as it gets to the top, so it's not too heavy. We don't want it to all the way. What it is, it concentrates the eye on this area down here, which we don't want it to do. We want it to just the whole letter to get equal viewing. So
yeah, you did. Yeah, absolutely did better job here. You kind of like narrowed these two parts a little bit together.
It's only subtly. I might have done it a bit too much, but it's just subtly.
But it's nice. Like it visualizes very well that like they're a little bit going inwards, not just like straight lines and not perpendicular parallel lines going together.
Yeah, I think it comes from when they were printing it and they didn't want, because if you look at certain fonts, they
would open
like a little bit in there, because when you're printing it, the ink would fill in that. They wouldn't be able to do that. So.
And otherwise, it would just like create this filling out here, which is also why you might see like a V shape like that. So that's also the interesting part. If you watch a Netflix documentary called Abstract, there's one typographer who will talk about, like, he inspected a lot of watches to just look at how they would actually put letters on top of watches, and that has a totally different style to that, and certain things that don't work as well. All right, let's see how script V looks. For me, it would be more pointy at the bottom, and then maybe some loop out here, but could also be something like that. But yeah, a lot of different options here.
Yeah, I normally get that. So.
All right, W, same as the V, is actually duplicating that and attaching it to the other end. Is that right?
Yeah, and also you probably want to, you can just sort of bring it in a little bit so it's not as wide as the V. So, yeah. And actually, like with the M, these two in here, I'm getting too big for my screen. The outer ones are slightly wider than the inner ones, and they're narrowing in. So this area there, maybe neaten it up first before I try and explain. But,
yeah, it's always going back and forth, trying to figure out what is the best way you can do that. Again, if you're watching this stream and if you're drawing at the same time, take a picture, snap a picture, share it on Instagram, tag us in it. We'd love to see what you're doing, what you're working on. We'd love to see your results as well. If you've been drawing all the letters, send us a message of what you've enjoyed, what part you've enjoyed, and how we can do that better. It's Stefan Kunz, Stefan Kunz on Instagram, and Ian Barnard as well. Ian Barnard, how it's spelled in the title, that you can just put together in one, and then you can find him there. You can also find him on YouTube and subscribe to his channel, so he will get to 100K before me, unless you want to help me, but then you can still help us both to get to 100K faster. Yeah, and sharing the video as well really helps us to kind of like help bring the content to people who are enjoying this, who want to learn something more. Maybe you got a friend who's wanting to draw something, or maybe even a mom who has kids at home who kind of wants to learn something new or wants to give their kids something to learn. This is maybe a great idea to do. All right, what comes after W?
So just quick tip on the
the serif.
Serif one. You can either go like that, where you've got a point there, or you can go up and have another serif.
Yeah, and you can even have a fourth serif.
Yes, if you're feeling daring.
There's like a really just a V doubled, and then you have 4 serifs. I looked it up during a workshop that one of my students asked me, hey, how many serifs, like I forgot to put in the W into my drawing sheet, in my cheat sheet. And so somebody asked me, and I wanted to help them and like show them how I would go about it. And we looked it up, and it was like, oh yeah, there could totally be 4 serifs. I didn't know that.
Again, personal preference, I suppose, comes into play.
All right, X is up next, and only 3 letters to go. We can do this. We are 2 hours in. That's amazing.
So X is very, what you explained with the letter L again, actually, what you're trying to do here is do like and how we've been doing with the A and the V, is that actually it narrows towards the center, all these outside lines. Otherwise you'll end up with too much weight right in that center. I've gone a bit extreme on that.
You mean this here?
Yeah, so the bottom, so let me put it in, is that if you don't narrow this area down here a little bit, you end up with way too much weight right in the center. So it's only little subtle tweaks, but
so kind of like the V shape, where you just want to adjust a little bit.
Yeah, you just want to adjust it a little bit. And the thing is, a lot of people won't realize it, won't see it, but it adds to the like refinement of the letters. I think is what we're trying to get, is just refining those letters, make them the best they can be in terms of like weight.
Oh, yours look actually really great. I probably did mine a little bit too strong here.
It's hard. It's playing until you think, oh, does that look right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, oh, it doesn't look right. Like, I'll get it right.
Yeah, and it's kind of like adding some styles to it over here. And
then, yeah, actually, what comes into play when you're doing the serif style is the fact that the line doesn't go straight through. It's sort of slightly skewy for the middle. So
right.
So that
like that.
So this one goes through and would go over there. This one goes through and would go over there. Just the way your eye tracks it, I think.
And then how about a script styled X?
It's another one I find quite tricky, actually.
I have actually no idea how to do it. All right, so this is how I would go about it. I would go on, let's see, before I show anything that I'm working on. No, that is good. I would go on, not my, but myfonts.com over here. So this is, somebody asked about a W in script style. So you can go in here, script style there. You can look for different fonts. And then here you'd probably look for, let's see, calligraphy, related tags. That has nothing to do with calligraphy, but it's still in here. Let's see if we can find a classic lettering font. And so it might take you a little bit to find something that is nice, but here that one looks pretty well. So now here you can enter your own text. So I can add a W and an X. And then here you can see, I can add the X also in cap size. And here you can see how you could do the W and the X in script style. So again, but that's of course a font as well. So let's see if I can make that maybe a little bit better. So yeah, not too bad. You can even round that in a little bit more. Give that a little bit more weight here. But yeah, basically rounded that. Oh, I love that W that you made. The wave is perfect. All right, let's look at the Y.
Okay.
The Y.
So the Y, again, like we've just been saying, it sort of subtly comes, you're sort of drawing in, because when you get to this central part, you've got a lot of weight in there again. That's what we're trying to.
Yeah.
So we're doing a sort of a smaller V on top with like half an eye. We're making sure these sides both match up where they come in.
So now,
and then again,
yeah,
I don't know, you know, I know you do as well. You prefer having a slightly shorter base.
Yeah. Usually would love, like, I would usually try to take it down as far as possible. So if I cut that up, and I would take, not like that, more like this. It's kind of like, that's a Y that I would love. It's everything a little bit lower, kind of like the P, the R, the E, even the crossbar from the E. I love to have that a little bit lower as well. All right, now one thing that I want to know from you is serif and contrast rich Y.
So serif contrast rich Y, you have one side comes down. You have the base, one side that comes down, and then you have just one side is thin. So
yeah.
Thick. Thin.
And then here on my side, I have a script styled Y. And then you can add those contrasts. I think that also is one of my favorite letters to draw. Also because it has just nice overlaps, kind of like an H as well, like a small cap H.
Yeah. I think with Y, you know, you can add a nice loop to it, and it still retains its legibility.
Yeah.
And if you've got a word, then you know, you can underline.
Exactly, and that is one thing that is just beautiful about it. All right, guys, time to finish this off. We've already been doing far longer than we probably expected it to do, and you guys are just amazing staying on here. Super thankful. Don't forget to leave a like button if you've enjoyed this stream. If you want to see more, put a comment for new ideas for videos. For another collaboration, if you want to see someone else on the channel, or if you want to see Ian back here as well. I love having Ian here on the stream. That is always fun, so this is good. All right, let's see. Last letter, Z. Show me what you've done and explain to me what you've done here.
So for Z, there's two ways to do it. You can either do this with the pointed corners. So you've got like you've got this rectangle, sheared rectangle here, and then you're coming out to the edges. Actually, something I forgot to do is that actually, again, optically on a Z, you need to make this bit stick out slightly more than the top. So this needs to stick out. The bottom needs to be bigger than the top, just so it doesn't look like it's falling over. So you can either do it that way where you have like a pointed corner, or erase this central bit. You have it coming all the way across.
Whoops.
So you have top and bottom, you have like
just a little bit longer.
And then what you do is you go from one side to the edges like that. And it's a bit like an N on its side, so this diagonal one is a different size to the width of these, just to make it look right. And also, as I said, making sure that the top is slightly narrower than the bottom.
Yeah, love that. You can round it up, you can give like a Zorro Z, even a script styled Z, kind of like that maybe.
So, because there's quite a few ways of doing the Z
in script.
It's like a backwards E.
Oh yeah. Well, that's kind of more like a lowercase one as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
a bit like two.
Since I live in Zurich, this is kind of like also a great letter to use.
Yeah. And it's like, that said, I quite like using that said, but it's making sure it could easily go into looking like an L.
Yeah.
So it's just making sure, it's like getting a combination of what looks really nice and what looks beautiful.
So yeah, there's the whole thing about legibility and readability. Like legible is, can you actually distinguish what letter that is? And readability, can you actually, if you use it in a word, read it fast? Is it different side and so on? So yeah. So that is beautiful. Well, let's switch.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's good fun. Yep. Brilliant. Thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, sorry so much for this. I just saw that you guys weren't able to hear me for the last part. I wanted to say thank you guys so much for watching, that you spent 2 hours with us. That's been incredible. We feel so lucky, and Ian as well is super thankful for that too. As we showed you guys in before let me bring Ian back up as well. Where is he? There.
I can switch back to my...
There we go. No, there we are. It's perfect. All right, so I wanted to say thank you guys so much for watching. We really enjoyed it. Give Ian a follow on YouTube and Instagram. Help him to cross those 100,000. Your subscription counts. He has a lot of great resources on his website. I'll link them below in the description later. And you can find also the grid builder on both of our website. You can also download a free drawing guide sheet with the letter builder on it. I used mine up I gave mine away for a friend who actually uses this for his kids. And it's just amazing here to be around and to spend some time with you guys. So let us know also in the comments below what you want to see us do next. What amazing ideas you have for us, because all great ideas don't always come from us. And as Ian showed it as well with the letter builder, the letter builder is a great tool to help you draw letters with ease, and could also be very helpful to just do those little tweaks if you know them. So still inspire yourself by looking around, learn something new every single day, and I hope to see you very soon in the next stream. So this time I hope that you guys heard me, and I'm excited to see you guys very soon. All right, bye-bye.
See you later, guys.